Sneetches get steeches, and other street stories. Dr. Seuss. What's shaking, BookTube? My name is Cam and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is by no means underrated in any way, shape or form. In fact, he's one of the most famous authors of all time. I think he's got like over 300 million sales or something like that. But, I've spoken to a lot of people about Dr. Seuss because I have a really genuine appreciation for him and what he's done for the world at large. And I still think there's a lot of people out there that don't truly know just how much he did. So this video is to give you a very brief, and I mean brief, overrun of some of the contributions he's had for the world. Writing can be so important, and people tend to forget just how important, especially when you're writing for children who are drawing things from their experiences and what they're consuming and adding that to what they are going to be when they grow up.
To children who were experiences and what they're consuming and adding that the way they're going to be when I grow up.
I wasn't talking to you. Did you know Dr. Seuss has been credited for inventing the word nerd because it first appeared in If I Ran the Zoo back in 1950. As my subscriber count continues to grow, never will I stop saying, roll the intro. So Dr. Seuss, or Theo Geisel, I'm sure I said that wrong because people love to point out that I say things wrong or my accent makes things sound wrong. Theo Geisel, or Miss Jackson if you're nasty, had a pretty long and interesting life, and I'm not going to go through all of that because as interesting as it is, I want to focus more on what his writing has contributed to the world. But some interesting things to note are that he has a star on the Walk of Fame. During the Great War, he actually played a pretty big part. He was actively and aggressively against Hitler's regime, the Nazi regime, and he did as much as he could as a creative person to contribute to that. He actually ended up joining the army in a branch that I wasn't even aware existed. Basically a lot of the propaganda films from back then, he was heavily involved in a lot of those. Now, he'd later go on to denounce some of his earlier work, especially the animations he did depicting Asians and Asian Americans in a really not so savory way. He denounced that stuff and put his focus into redeeming himself by trying to send more positive messages going forward about inclusiveness and equality. You probably already know that some of his most popular works, especially the stuff that's now been turned into movies, not including Cat in the Hat, held pretty strong political and social messages. But where the real brilliance of Dr. Seuss comes in is that he translated that into a language that children could not only read and understand, but truly on a deeper level understand and absorb into some of the framework for what I would consider conscious morality. For example, the Lorax, you remember that movie with the fucking banging soundtrack, by the way. To someone at our age is quite obviously about the severe impact that we're having on the planet on which we stand. Speaking of which, if I can deviate for a second, did you know that this year, Earth Overshoot Day occurred on the 1st of August? If that doesn't fucking terrify you, then I would hope that that's only because you aren't aware of what Earth Overshoot Day is. And if you're not, cool, I'll tell you. Earth Overshoot Day is basically the day that marks, in the last year, where we've consumed more than the planet is able to regenerate. And every year we're making leaps and bounds to decreasing that time, which is fucking terrifying. We are currently using 1.7 Earths per year. That marks the point where we are creating basically irreparable damage, or damage that at the very least is going to take very active and aggressive leaps in the other direction just to try and fix. Anyway, I'm not going to get into a whole rant about that. That's a whole other thing. I highly recommend looking up Earth Overshoot Day and reading it if you have the guts. Scary stuff. Anyway, that's what the Lorax was about. It was about the impacts of specifically logging and deforestation. That's an easy one, pretty obvious. But you think of it from a child's point of view, and I'm not just talking about the movie here, I'm talking about the book, but it quite easily teaches children about the care that we should be having. Not even just having care for nature and the planet, but having care for where we need to fucking literally survive as a species. And one of the great things about the Lorax as well is that it teaches you that there is hope for the future, although that's becoming more and more bleak in real life. But if we all put in a true attempt to care for where we live, maybe we can reverse the scale. Green Eggs and Ham is about trying food that you're not necessarily tempted by. Or if you want to take a step back even further, it could be applied to trying anything in life that kind of scares you or doesn't look that appealing. Basically, Green Eggs and Ham is getting out of your comfort zone to experience new things, take more enjoyment from life than what you're used to. Taking a risk, giving things a chance, taking the leap. Yodel the Turtle was about a turtle who keeps stacking turtles under him because he wants to be the highest thing in the world. When he gets pretty damn high, he notices the moon. Was it the moon or the sun? It was the moon or the sun, and he was angry that they would dare be higher than him. Ultimately, the turtle on the bottom burps, which incidentally was the first time there was a burp in a children's book, I'm pretty sure, and the whole thing comes toppling down, and the selfish Yodel the Turtle literally ends up in the mud. Pretty easy messages there about greed and using others to your own gain and where it's going to get you. It was even revealed at one point that this was quite specifically written with Hitler in mind. The Butter Battle book was about different cultures having different ideologies that didn't necessarily impact each other, but created enough conflict that they would come up with weapons to try and outdo the other. Doesn't sound like a children's book when you say it like that, but if you look into it a bit more, you'll see that it is translated quite well. And the book itself was specifically written with the Cold War in mind. My personal favorite, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is still, in my opinion, the best fucking Christmas movie that has ever been. Yes, even better than Die Hard. Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie, and I hate it when people say that. It's an action movie that takes place during Christmas. Anyway, The Grinch discusses in pretty easy terms consumerism over the true value of the holidays, the true purpose of, being grateful and having your loved ones around you during these times, rather than just what presents you're gonna get. Family, love, friends, all that garbage, Pfft, who needs it?
Oh. Ah. That's it, I'm not going.
Cat in the Hat is the only one that I don't think really nailed its message as clearly as it probably could have, while still being a rather fun book and a piece of crap movie. Basic idea there was just the risk of letting a stranger into your home. Obviously the risk is a lot darker than just having a large anthropomorphic animal-human hybrid messing up your home. In the execution, I don't think it quite sent the message it was intending, just because it kind of makes letting a stranger into the home fun. The 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins, about accepting things that you don't have any control over. Thidwick the Big-Hearted Moose, standing up for yourself. Horden Here's a Who, my second favourite. Person is a person, no matter how small. Again, talking about how stupid discriminating people because of their physical appearance is. Incidentally, another great movie, which is led by Jim Carrey. Seems like there's the secret to a good animated movie.
And even though you can't hear or see them at all, a person's a person, no matter how small.
I think it's fitting that the last one I mentioned, although there are so many more that you could look into, is Oh, the Places You'll Go, which is the last book that Dr. Seuss wrote, and is essentially about the enjoyment of life, looking forward into the future with hope. Having ambition and having hope that things will be better down the road if you put your back into it. Kind of. There's a few different interpretations you could go in there, but I think everyone can agree the general idea is hope for the future. Anyway, that's it. Hope this video gave you a greater appreciation for the man, the myth, the legend that was Dr. Seuss. I truly believe he is one of the most important and influential authors of all time. I was going to say of our time, I honestly think of all time. His books are still enormously popular, his movies are still being made, and general messages of hope and love and positivity and inclusiveness are still spread. And it's being spread to the most important audience in the phase of their life where this is stuff that they should be learning. Having deep and serious topics like this translated into a language that children can understand is an immense talent. Am I gushing? Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Catch ya.